Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. And this is your breakfast bankroll for Friday, April 29th, 2022. The weekend is here, and what a night last night. Holy cow. Live from Vegas, the Bellagio, the NFL's first round in the 2022 NFL draft. And when we say we expected fireworks, I tell you what, the first five picks, hats off to everyone that nailed the first five picks. God bless you. It was pretty fascinating out there. But what happened after that is just, it was bedlam. It was bedlam. We know the draft has changed. We know the NFL has changed. It wasn't a year for quarterbacks. We knew that. Pittsburgh was going to be able to sit back and maybe get their choice like they did, or was the Saints or someone going to move up a few spots to pick Malik or Kenny, and then Pittsburgh would then just take whoever was left over. But the wide receiver trades just blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. Just out of the blue, Baltimore says sayonara to Hollywood, and they ship him back to his buddy Kyler Murray. And so he's in Arizona playing with Kyler Murray. But the shocker obviously came later on when the Lions move up, and the Eagles said, "Oh, not so fast. We're gonna move up." And my assumption was they were moving up, obviously, to get Jameson Williams. And the Lions said, "Not so fast," and they grab him. So now there's egg on the face of all the Philly fans. And if you don't follow Jeff Nadu, go check out his video. He was just crushing them as they move up to supposedly get their man. And then the shocker, A.J. Brown to the Eagles. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Meanwhile, Debo has put on a temper tantrum the whole damn time. When am I getting traded? Guys, hello, over here. Everyone's getting traded but Debo. So then the Titans, yes, the Titans, said, you know what? I'm not going to pay A.J. Brown, who got 4 years, $100 million or right around there, and he got 57 of it guaranteed. The comparison to the Titans pick, Treylon Burks from Arkansas, was A.J. Brown. So they said, you know what? A.J., thanks. Thanks. We're not going to pay you. We know you don't want to stay here. You want to get paid. So what did they do? They draft Treylon Burks. So it was just fascinating. And the two locks of the NFL draft, 1-9 in my books. Absolute 1-9 in my books. A, the Patriots trade down, which of course they did. And B, the Packers don't draft a wide receiver. And they both come in. So we got rounds 2 and 3 today. We got MLB. We got NBA one game. We got the last 3 days of the NHL as well. Hats off the Suns. CP3, a perfect 14 for 14 yesterday. That's how you close out a game. Congrats to them. I said on the closing bell, I was starting to get a feeling the whole world was on Toronto. I said Philly would definitely make a statement, and they made a statement. Congrats to them. And the Mavericks, we had Brady Tinker on earlier this week, and at 2-2, he said the series was over. You could feel the shift, and once Luka got back, it was over. And wide open 3, clank. And Utah is golfing today, and Dallas is moving on. But we got we're going to do something a little different here today at the Breakfast Bankroll. Our weekly guest, Mr. Riley Magnussen from Chicago, a diehard Packer fan, a White Sox fan, is now going to be joining us for our takes on the Breakfast Bankroll today. So without further ado, let's bring him in from the Windy City himself, the one and only Mr. Riley Magnussen. Good morning, sir.
My friend, good to be back here. I am feeling good today. You mentioned it. What a crazy night we had last night. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't been back here in about a month. I'm sure we could spend 2-3 hours catching up with what's going on in, the MLB, NBA, and NFL. Not to mention, I probably am going to have to answer for a few of my teams that are either season just ended or season looking like it needs to turn around real fast as far as the White Sox are concerned. And obviously, the only team you didn't mention, the Bulls, taking the quick exit the other day. But I'm ready to start wherever you want to, my friend. I mean, the NFL draft, I'm sure we should start right there. You mentioned it. You and I, about the last time I was on, you said one of your two locks was the Packers not taking a wide receiver. And you and I tried to warn the people about a month ago, and I tried to warn them again a couple days ago, and people still weren't having it. And I don't think Twitter was as up in arms as maybe I thought they were going to be. And I think probably a lot of that is because, the top 5 guys went by the time the Packers were up. That obviously changed. And I know if you missed it last night, Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show, and he only named one guy. And this was, I think, the draft was in like the 23rd or 4th pick, so it was after they took their first guy. And I think the only guy he named as far as someone that was NFL ready in his eyes was Jameson Williams. He obviously stays in the division, goes 12th. You mentioned it with the Lions. As a division opponent, I am honestly a little nervous for what the Lions did last night. Obviously, lucking into, or maybe by their perception, maybe you mentioned a lot of people had Aiden Hutchinson falling to them at 2. But getting him and then swapping with the Vikings, I don't know what the Vikings acknowledged that Jameson Williams was a really, really good player and someone that they had their eyes on, but then they decided to let the Lions jump up 20 spots to take him. So I'm a little nervous, obviously, maybe not for this upcoming season necessarily as far as the Lions, but I think those two guys are going to be really good for the Lions for a really long time. And as far as the Packers, nothing... obviously not taking a receiver and taking 2 defensive guys, nothing that really slaps you in the face immediately. But as I mentioned, you and I talked about a month ago, I really like this defense for the Packers that they're building and have kind of managed to retain. And I like these 2 picks as far as building up that defense, because the one thing that I think as far as bringing in a rookie receiver, and I think they'll probably bring one in today in the 2nd or 3rd round here, the one thing that people were kind of overlooking as far as, and even Greeny said it last night on the ESPN broadcast, the Packers are looking for this, looking to build for these next 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, not the next 5 years like they usually do. And everyone that kind of read through the tea leaves was like, I don't know, Greeny, you better pump the brakes on that one a little bit, because the simple fact of the matter is that in the 13 years that Aaron Rodgers has been the starting quarterback, I should say, there hasn't been a single rookie receiver, let alone first 2 years, a rookie receiver that's come in and been really, really productive for him and the Packers. So if they had drafted a receiver, I really wasn't going to expect much out of that person here in the first round on the next year or two for the Packers. I think that would have been a future play for whoever's beyond Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not disappointed in them for not taking one. I still personally believe, either they'll take one today, or on top of that, they might still dip their toe into a handful of these veteran guys that are still on the free agent market. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'm 2 more picks here in the 2nd round. I'm feeling pretty good about the Packers. It actually wouldn't shock me if they decide not to take another receiver. Maybe they got something else up their sleeve, but I'm feeling solid about it. I don't know what your thoughts are as far as the next 2 rounds for the Packers, whether or not they take one or if they got any free agent guys. But I'm not panicking by any means. I'm feeling good about their 2 picks actually. So moving into day 2, I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, you talked about and Aaron brought it up, is the fact that the frenzy for those wide receivers was literally going to start right around Atlanta at 8.
Yeah.
The Jets had a 2nd pick. So what was going on there? And then if you wanted one of the big time names, you had to make a move. So the Lions make a move. The Eagles make a move. Now, which their Eagles move we talked about behind the scenes, and I started out the show that way. I firmly believe, I firmly believe the Eagles moved up to get Jameson Williams. I didn't know they had A.J. Brown in their back pocket. None of us did. Right. So they go and get their guy, and then they come in and announce the A.J. Brown trade. Treylon Burks, a spitting image. They would compare some to A.J. Brown, some Deebo Samuels. So why you can pay Treylon $5 million a year versus $25 million a year for A.J. Brown. So those wide receivers, okay, you had the London from USC, and then obviously you had Wilson and Olave from Ohio State. You had Jameson Williams, you had Burks, and then there was a gap.
Right.
So you're not gonna, because I need a wide receiver. You're not gonna then just say, well, I gotta appease the fans, because they haven't appeased the fans in years.
Right.
So when someone tells you you got to do something, what do? We never do it.
Right, and I mean, if you thought the Packers again, I think a month or so ago I mentioned, and you and I mentioned, if these guys are there at 21, which we don't expect, might be a different story. But after what Router said, I think Jameson Williams would have been the only guy that they might have taken, unless they decided to move up, which that clearly wasn't the thought process there. So, I'm interested to see. You mentioned Hollywood Brown on the shipped out of town to Arizona, and Lamar Jackson. They mentioned in their press conference, their GM mentioned, we spoke with Lamar Jackson, but if you look through Lamar Jackson's Twitter, he did not seem like he was aware of this was a situation happening whatsoever. Him and Hollywood Brown are, from all accounts, the best of friends. Obviously, you mentioned Hollywood. And Kyler are close, so I think Hollywood's probably a little more okay with it than Lamar is, and it might bring some more opportunities in as far as throwing the ball a lot more in that Arizona offense compared to Baltimore. But I'm interested to see what Baltimore does. Obviously, take Kyle Hamilton there at 14th pick, so I'm interested to see what they've got up their sleeve moving forward, because as I was kind of mentioned, there's still obviously, and the injury health of these guys is still really, really very much in question, but there's still a few guys on the free agency market that are notable. Few guys that had been mentioned in trade that I don't know if they'll be moved or not today, but still up in the air. Obviously, the Seattle receivers, Lockett and Metcalf. That the hot stove for those guys has kind of cooled down a little bit, so we'll see what happens there. I'm interested. We haven't really. Seattle was kind of a quiet participant. Obviously, they had some. I know they had the 9th pick. I can't remember if they had a later pick or not. They were kind of a quiet participant last night, so I think. It's going to be interesting to see if they don't make any moves. Maybe they're still kind of just trying to, let the offseason play out, see what they've got in this next crop of guys after Russell Wilson's gone. Or maybe they've got something big up their sleeves as far as bringing some guys in or tearing the roster down even more. I'm not really sure if you got any expectations for Seattle doing anything, but they were pretty quiet last night aside from their draft picks.
Well, I guess the Rashad Bateman playbook has now opened up a lot for the Ravens and all the fantasy players now. Mark Andrews had an absolute monster year for them. They just got injured, whether it was J.K. Dobbins or,
right.
Just one after another. And that was in the preseason. Yet they managed to still have a decent year. He doesn't have weapons, but he isn't the most accurate passer either. So it's going to be interesting. Day 2, day 3. There's a lot of wide receivers out there that a lot of the experts think can make some headway. They kept talking. Booger kept talking about it on the air yesterday. Is there's no Davante Adams there, and his exact words were, "Listen, you need to get a wide receiver that can separate." Okay. Mm-hmm. Rodgers is one of the most accurate passers in the history of the NFL. So if you can't get any separation, he's not going to try to force it in that window anyways. And that was the thing with Davante Adams. And we talked about it at length during the whole damn season. It's 3rd and 8. The whole world knows Davante's getting the ball. Okay. Somehow, some way, the damn bastard got open every damn time. If he didn't, there was a flag thrown and it was a first down anyways. Right. So you're looking for that wide receiver that can create some separation.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not really concerned, because obviously the options are starting to find themselves limited. But you have to imagine that they still have some type of plan to bring somebody in. And I know they kind of are still in that rumor of Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, I don't know how healthy or how soon he's going to be healthy. Obviously, Julio Jones is still a guy out there. I don't know if that's the route that he's going to be going. It seems like they wanted to see how the draft plays out, what their options are through the draft, and then they might act. I'm sure they have a plan as far as if they don't get anybody that's going to come in immediately in the draft, they've probably got some type of plan to bring somebody in beyond here, because I like the Sammy Watkins addition, not to do what we're talking about now as far as be that guy. Like, he's not going to come in and be a 1,000-yard guy by any means or a 10-touchdown guy. But I do like him as a de facto Marquez Valdes-Scantling replacement as far as taking the top off the defense, being that speed guy. I like it from that standpoint. But clearly something else. One last move I think is going to be made here before the Packers get going here to start September, obviously.
Well, what the rumors in the beginning of the week, and I almost fell off my chair when I heard this, was Darren Waller. Now, if you added a Darren Waller, I'd be like, holy cow, because we know Rodgers and his tight ends, and you would have been getting one of the most athletic tight ends in the game, and that would have been a game changer in my eyes. Vegas quickly poo-pooed it, and they said, Darren, you're not going anywhere with that. So it will be interesting, today, tomorrow. I mean, they'll sprinkle in probably a wide receiver or something. But the fact of the matter is there's still trades to be made. There's still potential guys that get cut to come on in. Your team is set. Okay, you've ruled this division long enough. I don't think you're worried about Justin Fields. I don't think you're really worried about the Vikings so much. I think you're still sitting in the catbird seat. I guess my question before we transition here, we know Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, and there's been talks, he was going to leave. They're going to make another move. Do you think the Vikings draft Malik Willis? He is there. He is available. Do they take him and they say, all right, Kirk, see what you got this year, and we're going to transition the following year?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to pose the question of where do you think, to you, I was going to pose the question of where do you think Malik Willis, and I think that would be, I think Minnesota should strongly think about that if they like Malik Willis, because they've got the second pick here today as far as the second round is concerned. And I think so, man, because I've talked about, as far as Kirk Cousins, in a single game setting for the Packers against the Vikings always, I mean, those matchups are typically pretty, even the last 2 years when the Packers have been, the 13-win team, the clear best team in the division, the Vikings have still given them problems. And so from that aspect, Kirk Cousins gives me some pause, because you never know when Kirk Cousins is going to be, on fire. Kirk Cousins compared to, can't complete a pass more than 20 yards, Kirk Cousins. But on a season-long expectation, I have zero fear of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings as far as long as Aaron Rodgers is in the building, the Packers are ruling the division. They do not scare me from that aspect at all. And especially it's, his play as far as not really being a guy that wins them, 11, 12 games in a season, and also the money that's eaten up, way overpaid. So I think they should. I think they should really think about it, because, his time is numbered. His time is numbered there if they can't even go on a nice playoff run. I mean, if they just win 10 games and sneak into the wild card in a quick exit, I still don't think that's enough for them. But they haven't had the best offseason. So, had they had a really nice offseason and brought some really nice crop of guys in to fill out the roster, I might have had a little more concern for them this upcoming year. But, it was a really underwhelming offseason for them. So I think they should consider it. I think there's a few teams that should consider it here in the second round. But I think I think you're spot on. That would probably be, gun to my head, that's probably where I would have him going, Willis, there at that number 2 spot there in the second round today.
We talked at length every Friday about the Bulls. We talked about their hot start, them and the Heat in the regular first half of the year, and then injuries really crept in for the Bulls, and we kind of had a feeling this was coming. Obviously, wasn't the the greatest of matchups with the Bucks. Personally, thought you should have left Milwaukee up 2-0. I thought you had a real good chance to steal game 1. Then you go and steal game 2, and the rest is history. My question to you moving forward, and I kind of already have an idea, you have to be pleased, not with so much the results. You got in the playoffs, you had a great regular season. Without those injuries, I think it would have been a little different. Moving forward, you like where this team's going, and what would you like to see in the offseason?
Yeah, I was kind of preparing myself for this question, because if you asked me before the season started, I don't remember how many games we ended up winning specifically, but if you told me that the Bulls were going to be the 6th seed, make the playoffs, win 46 games, I would have said, sign me up. I will take that 100 times out of 100 this season. The last 3 years have been an abomination, to say the least, and so I was ready for any competitive basketball. And they exceeded our expectations, kind of as you mentioned, for the first couple of months of the season there, and were top 5 efficiency, offensive and defensive. And then the defensive wheels absolutely fell off there in I think it was January, and then definitely into February and March. So from a broad perspective, yes, I am pretty happy with this team, especially as we get Lonzo back into next year, because I don't think his value was overstated enough. I really like what he was able to do on both ends of the floor, facilitate the offense, and really be a massive help defensively as far as guarding some of these teams here in the Eastern Conference. And so, yes, I am excited for the future here. I just don't know. Like, if you ask me, do you think the Bulls are going to win a championship in the next 5 years, given this roster? I'm hard-pressed to say yes. There's not really a ton of optimism as far as that is concerned, because a lot of the guys that we have, I don't know. I like Zach Levine and Vucevic, for example. I don't love them to be two guys that are going to lead us to a championship compared to what we're staring down on the East, as far as Joel Embiid, Giannis, Bam Adebayo have been eating Nikola Vucevic's lunch for the last 2 years here in the Eastern Conference, and I don't see that changing by any means. And as far as Zach Levine's concerned, if you ask me if I like Zach Levine, the answer is yes. 25 points per game scorer. He's exciting. Do I think he can be the best player on a championship team or even the second best player on a championship team? I don't know. So bear with me on this comparison, and this might be a little aggressive, but as far as both of those guys, for example, and even DeMar DeRozan, who I'm not sure how much time he's got left. Obviously, he was great this year, and I expect him to, kind of have a similar year next year, and after that, who knows? But these guys that are all-stars, I kind of compare to, maybe not a direct comparison to this guy that we just talked about in the NFL, but it's almost a situation where these quarterbacks in the NFL who are good, but definitely not great, and definitely not going to be the reason that you escalate to a championship or a Super Bowl, but you don't know what the alternative is. And it's a little bit different in the NBA. Obviously, it's not the quarterback position, but if we moved on, because I have heard a lot of speculation, is this Zach Levine's last game for the Bulls? And it's like, I get what you're trying to say. Is he going to be that guy for us for the next 5 to 10 years? I don't know, and I don't really think he's going to be, like I said, I don't think he's going to be the best player on a championship team and escalate to that level. But what's our alternative? Unless we've got something crazy up our sleeve, I think this is the group that we've got here for the next foreseeable future. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm kind of at peace with that as far as Zach Levine, Vooch, being our guys for the next 5 years, but I really don't expect them unless they make some big splash here or there. Or the one guy that I'm kind of holding out hope optimistically from a homer perspective is Patrick Williams elevating into a really nice player. And I was starting to have some pessimism as far as the first 3 games of that series we just saw against Milwaukee, and then he finally woke up in games 4 and 5, and I think put in 20 points in each of those 2 games, and he's solid on the defensive end. But the biggest thing that I'd like to see, if we are sticking with this roster, is that we fill out the rest of our bench with some veteran guys that know how to, are willing and able and know and want to play in the playoffs. Because that's the biggest thing, aside from some bad adjustments and lack of adjustments in games, 3 and 4 in Chicago, where we got embarrassed because there were some bad coaching adjustments from Billy Donovan, or lack of adjustments, I think is the key word there. There was about 3-4 guys that had really nice regular seasons, but looked absolutely like they had absolutely zero interest in contributing to a playoff win on the offensive end, and it was really tough to watch. Patrick Williams, like I said, he was that guy for the first 3 games. He had no interest in shooting the ball, and then finally, after a few, look at him in the eyes and just shoot the damn ball, man. And now he finally starts to figure it out. Kobe White, I mean, I was complaining about him ad nauseum. I like the guy as a person, and I hope he becomes a really nice player. I hope they move on from him because he's so bad defensively. And personally, I don't think he's good enough offensively. I tweeted it out. I think it was game 4. The Bulls use him as if he's this spark plug 6 man that's going to be, this instant injection of offense whenever he's on the floor, despite his bad defense. But he's not that guy. He's a 38% 3 shooter, like not even top 60 in the league. And he's, not big enough to body with these guys. And so I think the biggest thing for me, unless we've got something crazy up our sleeve, is just to really find some solid role players that you can depend on in the regular season to step up with some of these injuries, and obviously in the playoffs win. And you mentioned it was a tough matchup facing the defending champions, even without Middleton and the competitive advantage that Giannis has. That was obviously a tough matchup, but I honestly don't think it would have gone much different against any of those other top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference in this specific scenario here. I don't think it would have been much different for us. So I am excited. I'm happy that we're able to at least have this conversation as opposed to being an embarrassing doormat that they were for the last 3 to 4 years. But I'm cautiously optimistic. But like I said, I don't know how they get to becoming a true championship contender in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't see it at least at this point. I hope I'm wrong and I hope it changes. But I need something else to happen for us here, drastic, that I just don't think is there.
In the NBA especially, they always talk about star power. That's what it takes. You need the stars, and then you fill in the role players. And so, for years, the Celtics were just meddling along, and then in comes, Paul Pierce couldn't do it on his own. And then in comes Garnett, and in comes Ray Allen. And then next thing you know, they get a championship. The fact of the matter is LeBron couldn't win the championship in Cleveland. He goes to Miami with D Wade and Bosh. They win a championship. He comes back to Cleveland with Kyrie and a couple other role players, wins a championship. He goes to the Lakers and wins a championship. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the East, the teams up top had star power. So you got Embiid now with Harden, okay? The Nets, who are playing golf right now, still have KD. They still have Kyrie. I don't know what I this is the first time I said this name on the show, and it'll be the last time. They have Ben Simmons. That's the last time I say that name on that. But the fact is that the Celtics, who have the best record or was the best team since the second week in January, finally bought in number one. Number two, Tatum and Brown have now found a way to play together. And then you add Smart in there. And then the role plays you talked about. We shipped out to Philly, and we brought him back, and everyone's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
Well, Al's been a big part of this.
Right.
The kids on the bench, the Pritchards of the world, and they've all bought in. It's a team effort. Right. You look out west, the seasoned veteran of CP3 last night, 14 for 14 on a closeout game. Well, I guess they had Booker, but they didn't have him for a couple games. You got an Aiden, okay? So the fact of the matter is you're staring at Golden State with star power. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, the emergence of Jordan Poole. The fact of the matter is you have some pieces.
Right.
It's what you're going to do with those pieces moving forward.
Right. And it seems like we're trying to do this, and I'm fine with this. I think this is our best course of action. Kind of how I was saying with, the lack of Lonzo Ball really hurt us. And I don't think that it would have changed the series, or I don't know that they still would have won any series here in this top five. But it's a situation where the sum of the whole is a lot stronger than each individual part. And that was kind of really what pushed the wheels, made the wheels fall off, is when they started to lose guys, they just weren't the same team. And especially defensively, as I was saying. But like I was kind of saying, and I kind of tiptoed around it, the lack of adjustments, though, in that series. The Game 2 win, the biggest reason why they were able to win that game was they got defensive stops, and they turned that into fast transition offense. And in Game 3 and 4, 3 especially, they got embarrassed in both games, but 3 was a lot quicker. It was just this, they would get a defensive stop, and then they would have maybe even a 3-on-3, and then they would just walk the ball up, as opposed to what they did in Game 2, despite this clear speed advantage, at least on average, compared to who else was on the floor. And it was head scratching that they weren't able to make any type of adjustments, or at least see that they should have made any type of adjustments. So, yeah, in a nutshell, I'm fairly optimistic. I'm happy we're back in the conversation, but we'll see if there's anything we can do to get ourselves, truly into this next upper category of contenders. Otherwise, we're going to be in that 5 to 8 range for the next few years, the way I see it.
All right. You better get a drink or something, because here comes the real bad one.
Oh, boy.
Now, listen, I know what you did last year. I get it. I really do. The fact that you got injured by a couple key players, but were able to regroup, to focus, to steer the boat, and these guys miraculously came back sooner than expected. And you had you made it to the playoffs. This year, you guys were not just the talk of the South Side, okay? You weren't just the talk. You weren't just the talk of your division, okay? You were the talk of the American League. You were the talk of potential of winning this whole thing, okay? And what has happened this year? Listen, I'm a little salty this morning. Why? Because I had the White Sox first five yesterday. I thought you had a
Yeah.
great matchup with Kopech. I thought you had the opportunity. You stopped the 6-game slide. You won one. So usually after you have a big losing streak and you win one game, you're going to come back and win the next game. It's day baseball versus the Royals and Brad Keller. And then I look at the Kansas City lineup. Benintendi batting high threes, almost 400, and everyone else is batting 100s, 150s. You got one guy to avoid in the whole damn lineup. One guy, right? Kopech, first batter, 4 straight balls.
Yep.
The first time all year on my timeline, I wrote this. Leadoff walks never end well. Period, exclamation point.
Period. Yep.
Benintendi gets up a couple batters later, 1-0 Kansas City. I should say right then, thanks for playing, as you go 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And guess what? Top of the fifth, I'm spitting venom. I'm like, all right, well, you just need 2. Get a guy on, just need 2. Well, what do you do then? Get a guy on, pitch to Benny, 2-0. Thanks for playing officially. That bottom of your order right now couldn't hit a wiffle ball on a tee. Okay? So, we haven't talked to you in a long time. Let's start hearing what the temperature is, what the hell's going on. And I know you guys did it last year, but last year's last year. I'm not happy right now with the White Sox.
Nobody's happy with the White Sox right now. All of this is more than deserved coming my way. What are they, 7-11 right now? It's been bad. I wish I had more of a specific blame to push, but I don't. It's been just flat out bad. Obviously, a few guys are out right now. We haven't had Yohan Moncada at all. Luis Robert, who I still think if he comes back is going to be an MVP contender, hopefully, but he still has not been fantastic. Eloy Jimenez is out for 2 months now. That obviously kills us. And Jose Abreu has not been good. Really, Andrew Vaughn is really the only, I said the other day, I tweeted out because he was the only reason why we won, what's today, Friday? The only reason why we won on Wednesday was Andrew Vaughn, 3-run home run late in the game. I said, God bless Andrew Vaughn, because if it wasn't for him, we might be 5-13 or something along those lines. He's the only one that's shown up and is actually hitting right now. And so there's a ton of frustration right now. I'm not closing the book on the season yet because the division is still, the Twins are on a 7-game win streak. I think they'll fall back down here in a little bit. But I'm not closing the book on the season just yet. We've still got some guys to come. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just injuries like you were saying, and last year they were able to shore up some of these injuries. Some of the approaches that they've had at the plate have just been absolutely awful. And the back end of the bullpen, we've had some really nice days in the bullpen. But the fact of the matter is, Liam Hendricks, who's on the IL here, or either day-to-day or IL, I'm honestly not 100% sure, going to miss a few days. He hasn't been good, and it was kind of the same story last year where he's kind of tipping his pitches a little bit. I'm blanking on who I need to credit on Twitter, who I've seen this from, to where his delivery on his fastball and breaking balls are different, to where on his I'm not sure which one's which, but on one of them, he's basically holding the ball up higher than when he's breaking on his pitch on the breaking ball, he's got it in his glove, and on the fastball, it's like he's got it ready to go, ready to fire. And so these batters are professional hitters. They can tell these differences after a minute here. And that's been a struggle. And Aaron Bummer, their other guy, is supposed to be one of their setup mans, has not been good either. And so there's a lot of things that I'm still optimistic is going to be fixed, but it needs to happen quick. And Tony La Russa's got some questionable decisions, much like he had at the beginning of the last year. Pitching to Byron Buxton a few days ago in Minnesota. I can't remember if it was tied at the time, or I think we were up 3-1, and he gave up a 2-run home run, and we pitched to Byron Buxton, who's just scorching hot, or especially at the time, scorching hot. Some of these decisions, I mean, you as a fan and as someone who's watched baseball for their entire lives, and someone obviously you have been for a long time, and you've seen him manage for a lot longer. This guy's supposed to be known as one of the greatest managers of all time, and then he does these decisions where it's like, I feel like the 90% of the managers in baseball right now wouldn't make that decision. I'll guess I'll trust that he's got some master plan going on here. But at some point, we saw it last year, and then it kind of obviously it turned around. So I'm still optimistic. They're still minus 160 on FanDuel to win the division, despite Minnesota's win streak here. So I'm still optimistic. It has been extremely frustrating. The one silver lining that I will say, the top three starting pitchers that we have right now, Giolito obviously missed some time, but him, Dylan Cease, and Kopech didn't have his best stuff yesterday, but still managed to work through it. Those guys, I'm happy with what I've seen from those guys. Cease had a no-hitter through 5 innings the other day. Almost blew it after that, but still was really, really good for 5 innings. And this is going to probably sound like a lame excuse, but I do believe that our average game temperature is about 42, 43, 44, 45 degrees. And so a lame excuse maybe, but playing in the cold weather like that day in and day out, I don't think that's helped much. But like I said, the approaches at the plate have been bad, really bad, even for some of their better hitters. And, on top of that, as far as, for the first couple of weeks of the season, we had by far the hardest hit rate in baseball. And we were mostly just hitting it straight at people or hitting these warning tracks like you've seen. Obviously the hot topic in baseball right now, or in the MLB, is what's going on with these baseballs. Why aren't they flying out as much? And I think for the first couple of weeks, not so much the last two during this cold stretch, but the first couple of weeks, it was like, everything the White Sox were doing was warning track power. And, that obviously didn't help a little bit. And so as we heat up, I think the offense is going to heat up a little bit, but like I said, lame excuse for sure, but I don't think that's helped. I think that's maybe 5 to 10% of what the struggles are as far as the cold weather hurting us a little bit, because I think all of our games have been directly in the Midwest, and I think we've only had 1 or 2 games that are over like 50 degrees. It's been something crazy like that. So again, lame excuse, but I at least need some type of extra blame that's not strictly within the lineup or these decisions. So that's kind of one thing that I'm at least hoping to hold my head on. It's supposed to be a little warmer, up over 50 degrees today. So if they put up more than 5, then I'm holding my hat 100% on the cold weather being the issue so far.
Well, I will give you this. Myself and Scott Webb have been talking at length. I thought, the shortened spring training, only a couple weeks. The fact that these guys need to get ramped up. The fact that the pitching is always ahead of the hitting to start.
Yeah.
The fact that we are still in April. The fact of the matter is that maybe MLB has done some things again to the baseball.
Right.
All adding up. Sunday is May 1st. Okay. Sunday is May 1st. So you turn the calendar, you got through April, warmer weather is on its way. You guys have so much talent. You got guys that are just electric. Eloy, you talked about Roberts. You got the most consistent first baseman in the game with Abreu. You got arms upon arms upon arms. You got supposedly the best closer with Liam Hendricks. You got Giolito going today. Cease, in Scotty's eyes, is definitely a Cy Young candidate. Okay, I'm a big Kopech fan. Yeah, he has struggled. He came up from the Red Sox. You got him through the Sale trade. Treat him with kid gloves. He's had some arm injuries. He's had some off the field episodes, but you got an electric arm there. You guys have so much talent. There's no excuses. There's no excuses. You guys, hands down, were supposed to run away and hide in this division. Now, with that said, you got off to a slow start. It isn't May yet. And yeah, the cold does have something to do with it. But when I look, it's not just you guys either. It's all these lineups. The Red Sox are the same way. Right. You get through 1 through 4, 1 through 5. They're 6 through 9. You could get up there and throw left-handed and probably get these guys to get out.
Right. And that's as far as our bottom half, that's when the injuries really hurt us, because we've maintained a top 4 or 5 that should, regardless of what's been happening, should still be productive. And aside from Andrew Vaughn, like I was saying, hasn't. And so that's where I still have some optimism, because as we get guys back, and especially, Yohan Moncada, I think I mentioned he's got to be a guy that whenever he comes back needs to step up and be a consistent hitter, as opposed to because he's been good at times. He's been really inconsistent in the past couple of years. And so if you can get him coming back and being consistent, that would be a huge advantage. The one thing that I will say, and I didn't mention, that is actually concerning as far as the entire season, is the White Sox defense. And it should, again, get a little bit better as we get a couple guys back. But it has been, especially over this last 2 weeks, it has been really concerning what they've been doing defensively, or lack thereof. And when you have a guy, he's probably, even when Lance Lynn, which we didn't mention, is going to be coming back within the next month or so, and that'll be huge. We've still got a 5th starter spot that's still kind of I mean, by default, you kind of give it to Dallas Keuchel, but he's kind of in that, kind of getting to the range of concern as far as designating him for assignment, especially because when you have a defense like this, that when the ball is put in play consistently, and that's his style of pitching, is put the ball in play and rely on your defense, it's going to be a huge concern. And so for that, obviously that's only 1 out of 5 starters, but that defense, man, I like a lot of these. I love this team, and that's the frustrating part about it, is that I still love the individual guys that are on this team, but defensively it has not looked good. And if that doesn't change, I mean, that could be a real black spot on the season that could bring us down at times. Just real goofy blunders that are totally avoidable. I mean, yesterday's game, they had a pass ball and our backup catcher Reese McGuire, who's supposed to be a really solid defender, pops out of his glove, and that leads to, I think it was 3-3 in extra innings at the time last night, and it was bases loaded, 2 outs, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm off on a couple of details, but pops out of his glove in extra innings and leads to a run, and then the next batter hits I don't remember if it was a single or what, to clear the bases, and that was a wrap for us yesterday. So just finding new ways to lose games, and it's tough to break out of that type of slump, and so someone other than Andrew Vaughn's got to step up offensively, because, like you said, that bottom of the order is rough. Jose Abreu hasn't been great so far this season by any means. Typically, that's kind of been pretty typical throughout his career, though. A little cold through these colder months in April for him especially, and then once we warm up, he gets back to it. But they've got to make some changes here. Obviously, you said Giolito today, so I feel good about that. But they're going up against Syndergaard, who's been really solid this season. So optimistic. The attendance has been low this week with the cold weather, so I'm interested to see if they fill it up tonight. It's like I said, it's going to be about 55 degrees here in Chicago, so I'm hoping they at least get a nice crowd out for them tonight. Because the last 2 days, it reminds me of when they were really, really bad, and it was about a 10% crowd, and that's when you really start to hear individual fans, and players can hear individual fans, and that's almost an interesting home field advantage in and of itself. But optimism going forward, but if it doesn't change fast and Minnesota keeps winning, they're going to be in a nice big hole that's going to be tough to climb out of.
Well, today for our breakfast bankroll, what we've decided to do is we brought Riley on. Our goal on the bankroll has always been to, go over some overnight numbers, to check out where the board is going today. But Riley hadn't been on in so long, and the fact of the matter is, so much is going on in Chicago that we thought it would be good to kind of put his feet to the fire and then just do the whole. We went from soup to nuts. We go from Packers. We go to Bulls. We end with White Sox. And, obviously this year, we don't have to talk about the Blackhawks. But, hopefully moving forward, maybe next year when the puck drops, there will be some optimism there for the Blackhawks there. But when our segment on closing thoughts, Riley, maybe a tidbit for the Packer fans, what to look for, if not today, tomorrow during the draft. Anything catching your eye today, whether it's the basketball game or in baseball? You talked about Syndergaard versus Giolito today. Anything you seeing, a prop, or is there anything too early for you to tell?
There was one. I had a few that I kind of starred as far as see how the day plays out, see where the line moves, this and that. There was one that I was already I had some early interest in on the MLB slate, and that is Minnesota and Tampa Bay. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, obviously, but Tampa Bay opens about minus 135 if I'm not mistaken, or minus 130. Looks like last night. Kind of a roller coaster, moved up a little bit, moved down a little bit, and now is kind of settling right back around minus 135. Already mentioned the Twins. They're on a 7-game win streak. 6 of those at home, though. They are 3-4 on the road. So this will be the first game on a road trip after that nice long win streak, which they're still on. And they've got Dylan Bundy. Dylan Bundy's been really, really good. So I'm wondering if we're going to see some regression here from him, Bundy that is, and you've got Kluber on the mound for Tampa Bay, who had been good to start. Rough outing. I think it was against your Red Sox last time out, got roughed up a little bit. I think like 11 hits or so. But the one thing I'm seeing as far as and I only do this when it's kind of glaring, Kluber against some of these better hitters in the Twins lineup. against Correa. Correa's 3 for 20 lifetime with 10 Ks against Kluber. Kepler 3 for 16. Polanco 3 for 15. Miguel Sano 3 for 22, 11 Ks. Buxton 2 for 9. So he's had a ton of success against this Minnesota lineup Kluber has. And with them going on the road and kind of having a kind of differing, I think they might be a team that's, really good at home and kind of struggles on the road this year. The Twins, that is. I'm looking at this Rays team as far as taking this one today on the full game. Kluber on top of that, his K prop. I mentioned a lot of Ks against this lineup as well. Over under 5.5 on FanDuel, over 5.5 at -132. So you're eating a ton of chalk. But if you're feeling really, really confident in a really good Kluber outing, I might be interested in that respect. But as I'm seeing right now, Tampa Bay is one of my. It is getting a majority of money, and so that I might still monitor the line movement. It is our Fade the Public Friday. So if that one continues to go like that, and maybe the line a little reverse line movement, then I might kind of scare myself off a little bit. But that was at least the first one that I picked off from a matchup standpoint that I was interested in there. What are your thoughts on that one?
You kind of sort of speak in my language, and especially Scotty Webb will be very happy with your thought process. Kluber coming off an awful matchup game against my Red Sox. Got hit around the park pretty well there, and now you expect obviously a lot better performance. Minnesota on a roll now, leaving the home park now, heading to Tampa, and there's a handful of guys that you would have said to start the year you're going to fade, and Dylan Bundy was definitely one of them. I mean, in the spring training was throwing 88, 89. He was topping out at, and Bundy when he came up was throwing the ball a lot harder. Yet he's winning, and the Twins are winning. But I love where your eyes are there, spot on. I mean, on Wager Talk right now, 76% of the bets, 80% of the money is coming on Minnesota.
Okay. I was seeing that. I think I was wrong on what I was seeing. Then I like that then.
Yeah, and opened at 130, now 123 at Circa, 126 at Westgate. So the line's moving accordingly. And I'll pop over to Don Best here, and I see 61% of the bets all coming in on Bundy. I did have an overnight opener of 126, and it's 130 at William Hill. So depending upon where you shop and where your eyes are seeing, you could actually say there's some reverse line movement coming in on Tampa from the overnight with what you're seeing on the bets and the money actually coming in. So good eyes there, as always. So with that said, a great show. It was great, obviously, to catch up with Riley here. Expecting a lot of big stuff further on from our Chicago connection there. Hoping you have a great rest of the 2 days with your Packers and the draft. It's the same as a Patriot fan. If you expect anything, don't. The one thing I will say about the Pats is they've been tied to Mechie. John Mechie from Alabama, coming off an injury. You're going to get him at great value. Now, his under-over, we got at 59 and a hook. It's dropped to 56.5. So it'll be interesting to see if the Pats do something for their fans and at least get a wide receiver. The funny thing is, at 29, they go off. If you haven't seen it, you got to go and see the Rams coach. He was live talking about the draft, and he almost pooped his pants when the Patriots drafted Strange, because he goes, why did we waste our time? We were looking at him at pick 104, and the Patriots are picking him at 29. And they had the Georgia pick there with Dean, who is still on the board.
Yeah. I mean, how nuts is that? The record for defensive players from one team in the first round, and arguably the best guy left on the draft is another guy off of that defense, might go here within the first few picks here today. So, that's nuts, man. Packers get 2 of them from Georgia there.
Yeah, and I could see Tampa just jumping in and grabbing Dean and looking like hero play here. So grab Dean, and then Minnesota grabs Willis, and then the rest is history. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good to me. I had one last question I didn't get off to you. Are we going to see a Baker Mayfield to trade today? Yes or no? That's one of the. I don't know if you even call it a bigger domino. I mean, there's not only a few teams that would be interested from a starting aspect. Does he get moved today? Yes or no?
After the fireworks yesterday, I'm going to take a step back and I say he gets moved on Saturday. How's that sound?
Saturday. Okay. I mean, I think that would be a good fit, at least comparatively. I'm not saying it puts him over the edge. I thought Seattle would have been a good spot for him, especially the way they're trying to build their team in an old school Pete Carroll way that I don't agree with necessarily. But I thought Baker Mayfield would have been a good fit with what Pete Carroll wants to do in Seattle. But yeah, we'll see, man. The rumor is they're happy with Drew Lock, which we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. I like what you're saying though. Saturday does sound like, especially the price of some of these guys. I think that's probably a better judgment there as far as maybe late round pick swapping with Baker in there on what is it, Saturday? They're only doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday this year, right?
Yeah, you got rounds 2 and 3 today, and then 4, 5. What is it? 4, 5,
6 and 7.
6,
Yeah.
7 on Saturday. And I will close with this. Obviously, the first team that came to my head is Seattle as well with Mayfield there. So I think that would make all the sense in the world. But what the hell do I know? So,
Right.
as our buddy Dave Sharapan says, nobody knows shit anyways. But with that said, listen, guys, thank everyone here that's been watching and listening. If you're not a subscriber yet, please run over to East Coast Sports Investors at YouTube and Twitch. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Smash the like button. Turn on the notifications. Never miss a show, whether it's the Breakfast Bankroll, whether it's the Midday Market Report, or whether it's the Closing Bell with myself and Scott. You can follow myself on Twitter at EC Sports Invest. You can follow Riley at Riley_Magnussen1 on the Twitter as well. And we can't thank you guys enough. And always remember this: if you are wagering or investing today, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, ask for help. Why? Myself and Riley care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Riley Magnussen at Riley_Magnussen1. We wish everyone a blessed morning and afternoon. Enjoy the afternoon and come see us back at the Closing Bell later tonight. We'll talk to you soon.